Etalus just dropped today, and he's our first DLC character coming to Rivals 2. Today, let's take a quick peek at his moveset and his unique mechanics, so that when you sit down to play the character, you're not too lost. This video is just going to be going over his moves and how to use his mechanics, as well as a few simple strings. There won't be anything super complex in this video, since we'll be releasing a full, comprehensive guide later on this week. I've also left timestamps all throughout the video, so if there's only a certain part of his kit that you're curious about, or maybe you just want to see his combos or his mechanics, feel free to hop around. Let's start simple and work our way up. To start, let's look at his grounded options, starting with tilts, jabs, and strongs. Starting with his jab, Etalus has a super standard jab. He does a quick 1-2-3 movement, and moves forward ever so slightly while doing so. Like all jabs, these can be cancelled into tilts, which are super strong, starting with his down tilt. This is a multi-hit move that you can choose to just throw out once or twice, and it pops your opponent slightly into the air. His up tilt will pop his opponents a little bit higher, and is a standard uppercut anti-air kind of move. His forward tilt lays ice down on the ground, which allows you to gain momentum while moving around. This move is super important for his ice mechanic that we'll talk about later, but I'm saving that for the end of the video since it's probably the most complex part of his kit. His side special also can lay ice down on the ground as seen here, and it's great for putting ice on those platforms that you normally wouldn't go to mid-neutral. Now, let's talk about his strongs. Etalus' strongs are pretty big, but pretty slow. His up strong is this pretty big lunge forward, and his up strong is this massive scoop of ice blocks that can hit platforms above him, with his down strong hitting either side of him. The ice mechanic that we talked about earlier can enable some of his strongs by giving him slight drift, but it's also really great with his up strong, since if you do a dash attack, you can cancel it into that move, allowing you to cover lots of range and catch unsuspecting opponents off guard. Speaking of dash attack is cancelable at any part of the move. You don't even have to land it or cancel it on hit. This means that you can cancel into a jump or an up strong as we see here, but not any other options. This makes it really great to combo into his neutral air, which we should probably talk about. Looking at his aerials, Etalus has lots of options, but they're all pretty low range. His neutral air is a lingering hit that doesn't send opponents very far at all. This makes the move great to combo into itself, or to loop into another aerial, like up air or maybe back air. However, the one problem with this move is that since it is so stubby, you can get outpoked pretty easily if you only try to approach with it. His up air is a hit grab. This means that the move will grab an opponent, but won't grab a shielding opponent. So that means that you are safe on platform if Etalus does go for it and you have your shield up. This move is super dangerous though because it does throw you diagonally into the stage or deep off stage. And with Etalus' down air, he can very easily spike you. His down air is a multi-hit down air, meaning that it's pretty generous, but it's also pretty laggy, meaning that if Etalus does whiff it off stage, he's probably going to have a hard time getting back. And his last two aerials we need to talk about are his back air and forward air. Back air is pretty standard. It's a pretty large move with a pretty strong sweet spot. There's not really too much to say about it besides it being pretty quick and one of his larger options. His forward air, however, is the total opposite. It's still really strong, but you can hold down the button as much as you want to charge up the move. Charging it doesn't gain it any power necessarily, but Etalus does have a form of armor while using it. This means that he can tank through weaker hits like Fleet's up tilt, or maybe a Zetter burn tilt that might anti-air him, and then he can land a revenge attack instead. Now that we know Etalus' jabs, tilts, strongs, and aerials, let's check out his B button, or otherwise known as his specials. By clicking neutral special, Etalus slams a big block of ice down, a la Falcon Punch kinda, into the ground, and gains armor if there's ice below him. This armor is super awesome, and we'll talk more about it later whenever we get to the ice section of the video, but just know you probably always want to have it equipped. His side special summons icicles down from the ceiling as we saw earlier. They can cover platforms in matchups where you might not be able to cover all that kind of ground, and in stages where there's not an overhead platform bothering you, you can cover a lot of ground right in front of you. It's also great to poke opponents while they recover with, since it's kind of like a free hit and you don't have to go off stage to chase them. I will warn you that this move is really easy to parry, however, because projectiles are parryable on frame 3, so spamming it in neutral isn't the best bet, but it definitely does have its uses. You can also confirm it into some moves if you jump at the opponent off stage, like forward air or back air, netting you really early kills. His up B is pretty unique actually. It makes a spike box below him and is chargeable to extend its hit just a little bit. This move is also cancelable on a wall jump, unlike other up Bs. You're also actionable after it, completely like Etalus never used an up B. This means that if you're chasing an opponent off stage, you can use the up B as your first jump again and do an aerial to cancel your in lag from the up B, then wall jump, and then do another up B. It's like Rivals 1 is still here. This recovery can combine, however, with his super powerful down B, which shatters all the ice on the stage and causes anyone standing on it to become frozen. This leaves them really vulnerable to another hit, and can even lead to early kills. The one problem with this move, however, is that it is really slow. It can freeze opponents if you hit a certain hitbox, but that's really hard to do, and it's not cancelable by jumping on the wall, but is cancelable by grabbing ledge. This move is really cool to use whenever you're forced to go high as Etalus and you need to land fast, but that's not super common, and the move is mostly just a rare mix-up and nothing more than that. For the last part of his kit, let's talk about his grabs, pummels, and throws. Etalus has a standard grab and a normal neutral pummel. However, he has one of the weirder special pummels in the game. This special pummel leaves icicles above your opponent's head, and based on how you throw them and how they land, the icicles will come crashing down and freeze them in place, causing them to choose a special defensive option to block these icicles. This can allow you to condition your opponent to always have to shield after a throw or even tech roll. This means that if you are the Etalus player, it's a bit more complex, but you can force your opponent to pick certain defensive options and punish them accordingly. This is super great for Etalus since his moves are really strong and hit really hard, so maybe a throw that normally wouldn't combo you anything could get you a big combo in the end. His back throw is a kinda Dr. Mario style yeet. It kinda chunks the opponent a good distance, and it's pretty strong, but I couldn't find any combos from it personally. His up throw tosses opponents pretty close to him. It's really great at low percents for putting opponents on platforms and then covering their tech option or a lack of tech. His down throw sends opponents a little bit farther than his forward throw, but still knocks them into the ground. I imagine if you have lots of ice on the ground, you could tech chase, but it seems kinda tricky. His forward throw, however, keeps opponents really close to him, leaving Etalus vulnerable to a get-up attack, but also forcing tech chases. I think this throw is probably one of his better ones, but Etalus just came out maybe an hour ago, and I only have a few games on him, so I wouldn't take my word for it. Let's talk about Etalus's ledge and get-up options. When clicking the A button at ledge, Etalus does this multi-hit kind of pummel rush forward. This move covers a lot of ground and can definitely catch shielding opponents off guard if they're not aware that it's a multi-hit. For his special get-up, Etalus breathes ice onto the stage and slides kind of like the Coca-Cola bear in those old commercials. I will warn you about this move is that he doesn't stop sliding until there's no more ice or no more stage. So if the stage is completely covered in ice, it does leave him pretty vulnerable to attacks. For his get-up specials whenever he's knocked down, Etalus can hold the B button and charge up a big move slashing all around him and spreading ice. You don't have to hold this option and you can get a weaker option, but it does add a lot of depth to his kit, especially if an opponent is shielding next to him trying to cover his get-up. His normal A button is a claw slashing strike that hits all around him. It's pretty standard, there's nothing too special to this one. Last but not least, let's do a really quick overview of his ice mechanic. I'm going to keep it really simple today because, as I said earlier, we do have that full complex guide coming later on this week, hopefully, but I did want to let y'all know how it works, just in case you're picking him up and super confused. To put down ice, Etalus has to use forward tilt, side B, or his up B while on the ground. This allows him to slide a little bit extra whenever he's moving around and cover more distance. This takes Etalus's kit, which is normally pretty slow and clunky on the ground, to being pretty quick and agile if he has the ice. He can also down B to shatter it as we said, but I don't suggest doing this too often because you probably want to be able to activate the ice to allow you to do dash attack cancel up strongs or dash attack cancel up airs. Things like that can call unsuspecting opponents above you, and Etalus is normally not great at hitting people above him. He can also do dash attack cancel neutral airs as a quick poke tool in neutral, and since the neutral air lingers for a long time, you can even call out things like spot dodge. Using Etalus's neutral special on the ice allows him to gain armor. The neutral special is pretty slow, so it's pretty hard to find a time to use it, but the armor's definitely worth it. If you have armor on and you use a strong attack, you send shards in the direction of your attack, allowing Etalus to follow up the strong with another hit, as well as shielding Etalus whenever he's using the strong, allowing him to get a revenge hit if a greedy player tries to sneak a hit in to interrupt his move. It also gives him armor on his up B, which is really nice, since his up B is pretty slow and one-directional. This means that opponents that would normally spike him to his death can't anymore, making the recovery a lot stronger. That just about wraps up our Etalus moveset overview. I hope you liked the video, and I hope you're loving Etalus just as much as I am. I'm hosting a tournament later on this week where Etalus will be 100% legal for everyone to play, and you should check it out. The link's in the description and you can sign up through our Discord. Until then, hope y'all have fun with the character, and I'll see y'all in the next one.